Imagine a man who escaped from prison, not to hide, but to return stronger. A man who went from being wanted by the law to becoming the president of a whole country. And then, after rising to the highest seat of power, he lost everything and ended up right back behind bars. This is not a movie. This is the real life story of Charles Taylor. A story of power, war, and the price of decisions. Watch this video till the end, because this story will change the way you see leadership and justice. Charles Taylor was born on January 28, 1948, in a small town called Atherton in Liberia. He grew up in a country that was already facing social and political challenges, especially between the ruling class and ordinary citizens. His family was not among the richest, but they were stable enough to give him some level of education and guidance. As a young boy, Taylor showed signs of intelligence and confidence. He attended school in Liberia, where he developed an interest in leadership and public affairs. Like many youths of his time, he was influenced by the conditions around him: poverty, inequality, and the struggle for power in the country. In search of better opportunities, he later traveled to the United States for further studies. Right there, he attended college and was exposed to a different kind of society, one with more freedom and opportunities. During this period, he also became involved in student activities and began to show strong opinions about governance and justice, especially concerning Liberia. It was also during this period that his first major controversy occurred. While working with the Liberian government, Taylor was accused of misusing public funds, money meant to serve the people. The accusation was serious and could have ended his career before it began. He was arrested in the United States, waiting to be sent back to Liberia to face charges. But in a dramatic turn, he escaped from prison under mysterious circumstances. This escape not only saved him from facing justice at that time, but also became a turning point, pushing him towards rebellion and setting the stage for the dramatic rise he was about to make. After escaping from prison in the United States, the life of Charles Taylor took a more serious and dangerous turn. He could no longer return openly to Liberia, so he went into exile, moving between different countries and staying out of the reach of authorities. During this period, Taylor began to build strong connections with other individuals who were also interested in changing the leadership of Liberia. He traveled across parts of Africa, including Libya, where he reportedly received training and support. It was here that his ideas about armed struggle started to grow stronger. As time went on, he gathered a group of followers who believed in his vision. Many of them were young men who were frustrated with the situation in Liberia and were ready to fight for change. With these supporters, Taylor formed a rebel group known as the National Patriotic Front of Liberia. This group was not just ordinary political movement, it was a military force preparing for war. They trained, planned, and organized themselves for an attack on Liberia. Taylor positioned himself as the leader, gaining loyalty and control over his fighters. By the late 1980s, everything was set. The plans had been made, the fighters were ready, and the goal was clear: to return to Liberia and take power by force. This period of exile did not weaken Charles Taylor. Instead, it transformed him into a determined rebel leader, ready to begin a conflict that would soon shake the entire nation. In December 1989, Charles Taylor finally put his plan into action. Leading his rebel group, the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, he entered Liberia from neighboring Cote d'Ivoire and lodged an armed rebellion against the government. This marked the beginning of what became known as the First Liberian Civil War. At first, the attack seemed small, but it quickly grew into a full-scale war. Many people who were unhappy with the government joined Taylor's forces, while others formed their own armed groups. The country soon became divided, with different factions fighting for control. Towns and villages were destroyed, and thousands of innocent civilians were caught in the middle of the violence. As the war continued, Taylor proved himself to be a strong but controversial leader. He used both military strength and political strategy to expand his control over large parts of Liberia. His forces captured important areas, including regions rich in natural resources, which helped him to fund the war and strengthen his position. However, the conflict brought great suffering to the people. Many families were displaced, children were forced into fighting, and the economy of the country collapsed. The international community became concerned and made several attempts to bring peace through negotiations and agreements. After years of fighting, peace talks were finally taken more seriously. Agreements were signed, and a plan was made for democratic elections. By this time, Charles Taylor had become one of the most powerful figures in Liberia, and many people believed that only he could bring an end to the war. In 1997, elections were held, and Taylor contested for the presidency. Using his influence and popularity amongst certain groups, he won the election by a large margin. His victory marked the end of the Civil War and the beginning of a new chapter in Liberia's history. From rebel leader to elected president, Charles Taylor's rise to power was dramatic and unforgettable. But even as he took office, many people wondered whether true peace had really come, or if more challenges still lay ahead. When Charles Taylor became president in 1997, many Liberians hoped that the years of war and suffering had finally come to an end. At the beginning of his rule, he promised peace, unity, and development. For a short time, there was some level of calm in the country, and people tried to return to their normal lives. However, as time went on, his government began to face serious criticism. Many people accused him of ruling with fear and controlling the country in a harsh way. Opposition voices were often silenced, and reports of human rights abuses started to increase. Instead of full peace, tensions slowly began to rise again within Liberia. At the same time, Taylor was also accused of being involved in conflicts outside Liberia. One of the major issues was his alleged support for rebel groups in neighboring Sierra Leone during the Sierra Leone Civil War. It was believed that he exchanged weapons for diamonds, helping to fuel violence in that country. This brought international attention and strong criticism from world leaders. Because of these actions, Liberia began to face sanctions and pressure from international community. The country's economy suffered and life became harder for ordinary citizens. Within Liberia, new rebel groups also began to rise against Taylor's government, leading to fresh fighting. By the early 2000s, the situation had become very tense and dangerous. Fighting spread closer to the capital, and many people were once again forced to flee their homes. With increasing pressure, both from inside and outside the country, Taylor's hold on power started to weaken. In 2003, facing strong opposition and calls for his resignation, Charles Taylor stepped down as president. He left Liberia and went into exile in Nigeria, bringing an end to his time in office. Although his presidency started with hope, it ended in crisis and renewed conflict. For many Liberians, this period was a painful reminder that the struggle for true peace and stability was not yet over. After stepping down from power in 2003, Charles Taylor left Liberia and went into exile in Nigeria. At that time, it was agreed that he would stay there to allow peace to return to Liberia. For a while, he lived quietly under the protection of the Nigerian government, away from the conflict he once led. However, the story did not end there. The international community continued to demand justice for crimes committed during the wars in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Taylor was accused of supporting rebel groups responsible for terrible acts, including killings, amputations, and the use of child soldiers during the Sierra Leone Civil War. In 2006, under growing pressure, the Nigerian government agreed to hand him over. Taylor attempted to escape, but was later arrested near the border and transferred to face trial. He was taken before the Special Court for Sierra Leone, a court set up to try those responsible for serious crimes during the Sierra Leone War. The trial lasted for several years and attracted worldwide attention. Witnesses came forward to give evidence about the violence and the suffering linked to his actions. Taylor denied the charges and maintained his innocence throughout the process. In 2012, the court finally gave his judgment. Charles Taylor was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He was sent to 50 years in prison. This made him one of the first former African presidents to be convicted by an international court. His arrest and trial sent a strong message to the world that no matter how powerful a leader may be, they can still be held responsible for their actions. For many victims, it was a step towards justice, even though it could not fully erase the pain of the past. After his conviction in 2012, Charles Taylor was sent to serve his prison sentence in the United Kingdom. He is currently held in HM Prison Frankland, a high-security prison known for holding serious offenders. Life in prison marked a complete change for Taylor. From being a powerful leader who once controlled a nation, he now lives under strict rules and limited freedom. His daily activities are closely monitored, and his contact with the outside world is restricted. Today, Charles Taylor's life serves as a powerful lesson. It shows how a man can rise to great power and influence, but also how his decision can lead to a downfall. His story remains an important part of African history, reminding people of the importance of justice, accountability, and responsible leadership.